Good morning and welcome to the Rise and Shine podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Justin, along with Jeff and Austin. We're so glad that you're here. I hope that you'll get a cup of coffee, open your heart, turn up the volume. Let's rise and shine together. This is the Rise and Shine podcast.
Hey, good morning, wherever you may be. You just have to have been here just not even a couple of minutes ago when we started to record.
To do a blooper verse.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Because it was like, what in the world?
I think as a result of that little miscue there, if you want to call it that, I now have a stuttering problem. Hey.
If you can imagine like the strobe light, that's the kind of what happened to the sound. It was like a strobe sound.
My eyes are jumping back and forth a little bit there. Just a lot of staccato sound there as we're opening up. But
man, it's been one of those weeks though. It's just like, what in the world is going on?
I tell you what, for those of you who may be new to the podcast, the three of us either coach or have kids that are involved in scholastic sports competition right now, and this is a very busy time of the year for us. Regular seasons are winding down. Tournaments are being played. Now we're mapping out roads to the region tournaments. We're all still involved in that. Hey, that's a praise, and we're certainly enjoying it, but it's all kind of left us a little road weary and along the way.
And you got graduation right in the middle of it.
Graduation's coming up right in the middle.
That have kids graduating.
And then 316 soccer starts this week.
It's that
evaluations,
just
graduation
a lot of
parties,
stuff.
and
Hey,
Memorial Day weekend.
It's all good, and listen, we do have Memorial Day coming up, and that is a time to honor those who, as has been said, and I don't know that you can put enough emphasis there, who were willing and able and did pay the ultimate sacrifice for us to have the freedoms that we enjoy and can participate in, and we are certainly so thankful. But I got to thinking about our podcast this morning and looking back at the message that the Lord provided Pastor Justin on Sunday, and I thought his opening illustration was quite compelling. It was about the Shackelford expedition, Ernest Shackelford, and historically this occurred between the years 1914 and 1917. It was a trans-Antarctic expedition that had been well planned out. They were going to make an approach and do a crossing of Antarctica, and there was also a Ross expedition group that was essentially going to sail around and meet them on the other side. Now, what this has always fascinated me about the South Pole, because we're walking across an ice bridge, a land bridge, an ice bridge, how you want to refer to it. We're underneath the earth, but we're walking upright. And again, I just go back to emphasize gravity as one of the most awe-inspiring and amazing elements that God has provided for us to be able to live on a round planet, to be able to walk underneath it, but to still feel as if we are walking upright. And so I just continue to be amazed by God's creation. But if you've not read about the Shackleton expedition, I'd encourage you to give that a look up, because it is a picture of one of the most extraordinary survival expeditions you'll ever read about. It's often used, they say, in leadership conferences regarding courage, determination, and how he was able to lead this through. Apparently, in his group of 28 people, they all survived under some of the most extreme conditions.
Well, what's interesting is, when he puts the ad out, and some people say it's a myth, but, it was still, the expedition was really, would they really survive?
Right.
Really, that's the, point of it was dangerous. It was going to be bitter cold. It was going to be long nights of darkness, sometimes days of darkness, and then, you're out in the bitter cold. Are you going to actually be able to survive? And nobody wants to sign up for something like that. But there's 5,000 men that show up to this thing.
Listen,
and 27 men are actually chosen to go on this expedition, plus Shackleton, so 28. And then, as history tells us, they did not. They survived. They went through all kinds of things. You can read about it, and pretty amazing. But the whole point is that's really kind of what we're seeing. Jesus is going to be telling the disciples and anybody that wants to follow him, not just his 12, but the other disciples that are there. And that's a distinction we have to understand in Scripture. Sometimes it says his disciples, and then it identifies the 12. So sometimes he's speaking to just the 12, but then other times he's speaking to others that are following him, because we know there were others besides the 12 following Jesus.
Yes.
But, he is saying to his disciples, hey, come on mission with me. And then in chapter 10, they go together. He's going to tell them what that mission is going to entail, and it is going to be a dangerous mission. Jesus, is clear-cut about it. There's going to be persecution that you're going to face. You're going to face suffering. Not everybody's going to like you. It is a extreme, mission that God has given us, but he is asking us to join. And, I think everybody wants to live for something that matters and that has eternal significance, things that are not going to fade away. And that was the whole point, is saying, that's what Jesus is showing here. And he's showing how he did his ministry and who he's calling to. And the truth is the issue with it is that we don't have enough workers, to work the field.
Absolutely. And we think about this, and it would be considered one of the deepest and most sincere longings of the lives that we live here. And I think you could include those who aren't believers in Jesus Christ, but folks want to be involved in things that will outlive them. Mm-hmm. And certainly those things emanate from a source of strength and capability that goes beyond us. Christians are the ones, because we've been redeemed and our hearts have been transformed, our perspectives have been changed. We can understand that and see that our source of strength and courage and determination to work through is, comes from Almighty God in heaven. And he has gifted each and every one of his children. I think spiritual gifting, Justin, is one of those aspects of the Bible that pertains to us as believers that sometimes is very misunderstood. But is very real. We've got the proof of Scripture that tells us that as Christians we've all been gifted to serve, that there is an assignment for us, that Holy Spirit speaks to us in ways that enables us to know where to serve, and He will empower us to carry that through. This is interesting that we find ourselves here, and I'm very, very thankful for this, because yesterday in our senior adult Bible study we had a wonderful turnout and a really, really sweet discussion yesterday. But we started Haggai yesterday. Mm-hmm. And, 4 prophetic calls that are going to take place, over that will encompass a time period of, right at around 4 months. Some say 3 months and 14 days. But anyway, the first call, prophetic call of God to the leadership of the people, and that was Zerubbabel, who was the civil leader, the governor, and Joshua, the high priest, was, hey, listen, the people have come to a point where they think, because opposition has occurred to the building of the temple, that in their own mind they have decided, well, it must be God's will that we don't do this now. They cowered under opposition and antagonism. And the prophetic call of God that we talked about yesterday in our class went to that 8th verse where God says, listen, you go into the mountains, you gather the wood, and you begin to rebuild. Mm-hmm. So, what is it that oftentimes drives Christians to the point of saying, hey, this is just too much? Or maybe God's trying to tell me something here that maybe this is not the time, or maybe I missed it. Those kind of things. We oftentimes wither under opposition when in actuality anything that we're involved in as God's child that has any eternal value, any spiritual worth to it all, it almost is guaranteed to be met with some opposition.
Yeah, but isn't that the American mindset?
Yeah. It is the American mindset.
That if we, it should be easy, it should be comfortable, it should be quick, it should be, microwave, ready. That we don't work the process. He talks about a field, he talks about a harvest. we should understand that more than anybody here in rural Southwest Virginia.
Absolutely.
Of what it means to plant crops and, plant corn, potatoes, green beans, whatever, tobacco, the hay fields, whatever. We have to, we should understand a little bit. You may not be a farmer, you may not have a garden, but you can understand that there is a process. You just don't go out there and plant it one day, the next day you have a harvest.
Right.
But there takes work, and if you don't have workers to work the field, you can't reap the harvest. And that's what Jesus is saying. I mean, and here's the awesome thing. Jesus wants us to be a part. I mean, he wants us to help. Not that he needs our help. He wants us because there's something of benefit that we see. But I think what happens is we think in our mind that, okay, if this is hard, then maybe it's that God don't want us to do it.
Yeah. Listen,
and I always heard
we jump to that conclusion so quickly, don't we?
Yeah, and I've always heard this: the door of opportunity swings on the hinges of opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Write that one down.
And so, I mean, but if you think about the door of opportunity, there's always going to be some pushback. Mm-hmm. I mean, even if you're going to be an athlete or whatever, you're going to have to go through some failure. But see, we think failure is final. We think failure means we messed up or we're not good enough. No, it just means that it's part of the process. I mean, when you started riding your bicycle, you probably didn't ride it on the first try. You probably failed.
Yeah.
But then you got
Second
out
try
there.
for me, but we got up there.
Well, okay. So, but it took you some time, and then you started getting, good at it.
You bet.
Then you could, pop a wheelie. Then you could, and it took you some time. You get it a little bit off the ground. Then you could get it up to where you could pedal while you had it up in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, so you know what I'm talking about. So, but you had to fail to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, what we do as Christians, we think, well, if we fail, well, then that's not of God, because God's not about failure.
I think it's interesting that you're talking about that, and I'm going to give you away in this book that we just showed you, the Becoming Like Jesus book, is that Matt Chandler talks about not being like a roller coaster for your spirit and stuff. It's more like a coil. Mm-hmm. And so it just goes around and around and around. So like when you're at your lowest, you'll come right back around to your highest and through your spiritual growth and everything. And that's kind of what you're saying there is like most of the time when you get to the bottom, everybody just quits. They don't understand that it's the next step to get you to the next place and stuff in that faith,
Right.
So.
And going back, don't want to make this about, well, okay, let's just make it an opportunity for an Old Testament parallel. When Haggai is approaching the leadership, and then he's going to speak to the people about this, he's also pointing out some things, and Justin's already alluded to that. Why is it that when we intend, and we start with fervor and enthusiasm, an opportunity to serve the Lord, and then things begin to get a bit difficult, challenging, things don't seem to go the way we had planned for them to go, we do tend to kind of throw up our arms and question things very, very quickly to the point of just kind of giving up on the work altogether. Hopefully not.
It's a mindset.
It is. But why is it that when it comes to worldly things, we'll work at great expense and great effort to make sure the things that we want come to pass? I mean, we'll put up with just about anything to get what we want. And again, it does go back to mindset. I mean, isn't it true that people will make time for and will work for what they want the most? And the question that came up yesterday in our Bible study class is, how does that match up and compare with, our sincere desire to serve the Lord? Are we going to be willing to persevere and determine through what appears to be an opposition? That seems to be kind of relative when you think about how we gauge such things. But is our desire to serve the Lord through challenges going to exceed what we would be willing to do to acquire the things that this world has that we certainly think that we can't live without? And I feel like there's just such an unhealthy mismatch there between those two things. Folks will make time for and will provide effort to and fund those things that they truly want the most.
I think another thing, too, with us talking about how we want things now is like in our world right now, I mean, you can basically have it almost in an instance. I mean, look at Amazon.
Ooh. Yeah.
I can order something and have it, at least sometimes by the end of the day, if I order 8:00 in the morning, they'll show up from the warehouse in Bristol, and bring
That
it to
has
me
happened.
now.
Yes,
and
it
so
has.
even like point A to point B, you got to think about vehicles. We got vehicles. I can get somewhere, an airplane, I can get on the other side of the world within a day, and we can get there instantly. I mean, back then, everything took time. It took patience, took planning, took all this stuff and effort, and that's the thing. Nobody wants to give effort anymore either.
But too, I think it's our society is shaped through media, social media, that, we celebrate things that really don't last. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's just like, the fear of missing out, the FOMO, the fear of missing out. It's the in sports, we want our kids to succeed. And yes, we do want them to succeed. We want them to win. We want them to be the best. But at the end of the day, is that the most important thing? That's the question I have to ask myself. I mean, because I want my son to win a state championship in soccer this year. No buts about it. I would love for him to have that experience. I want him to win every award that he can, to be the best that he can be. I want both of my boys to do that. But at the end of the day, is winning a state championship in soccer, is that the thing that is going to bring real satisfaction at the end of the day? Now, I know where I'm at. I know I'm in Gate City, and I know we talk about championships, but so we'll spend hours at a practice, honing our gift, honing our skill. We'll get training. We'll pay money for it. We'll put them in all kinds of travel ball and travel all over the country at the expense of doing the spiritual things. God forbid we miss a practice or cut practice early on Wednesday night to come to a church service, and then, we got to cut out on Sunday to go play another sport. I mean, we're practicing all week long, and then we come to church and we're exhausted, we're tired, we have nothing else in the tank. And what I'm saying to us is, it's because we've bought into this Americanized theology, philosophy, whatever you want to call it, that if we gain this, it's going to give us some type of status.
Well, and your opportunity to succeed will be enhanced if you will involve yourself in more of this and this and this. It goes back to a discussion I had yesterday with a gentleman that came to watch us play high school tennis, who's a teaching tennis pro in the Abingdon area up there. And he's talking about how they're trying to work his 10-year-old son for travel team baseball. Mm-hmm. Well, this goes back to a conversation I had just an evening or two before with Weston Carr about Weston's involvement in baseball and things like that. And Weston's got a young son that's about 10 years old. Mm-hmm. And when he starts talking about travel team ball, it gets into 3 or 4 different subdivisions of, okay, you got to start here. And then they're going to start calling you. They're going to put you here. And this was never intended to be a podcast this morning to rail on travel team sports. It is a part of our culture, and it doesn't look like it's going away, let alone go away soon. But the fact of it is, the time demand in those things, it has to make you wonder, and we've used this metaphor before, at the end of it all, will the juice you have be worth the squeeze that it is placed on you?
But to say we don't have time is a cop-out and a lie.
Okay.
We do have time for what we want to make time for. And I'm all about our kids, getting an extra workout,
right,
bettering themselves. I put mine through it too. I've done all that. But again, is that what we want this life to be about? Because my son's coming down to the end, and he's getting ready to hang up the cleats for the last time, put the gloves up. We've already done it in 2 sports. We got one more to go. And at the end of his career, are we going to look back and am I going to be proud of his accomplishments, or am I going to be more proud of the type of young man he is and was while he played those sports?
If he intends to apply himself in his studies in the way he hopes to be able to do that, will you even be talking about a lot of this that's happening now in 2 years? And the answer to that is probably not, because
No.
he's going to have a focus. It's going to be totally different. God desires to align our focus and our perspective. Go back to the situation in Haggai. The folks had cowering under opposition of serving God and doing what God had told them to do. Complete the work of the temple. The foundation had been laid. The building structure had started. Some people say it had been going on a year or two, maybe up to 5 years. And then for about 16 years, nothing was taking place because the folks had convinced themselves, okay, maybe because it got hard, it just wasn't God's timing. I mean, we can come up with all kinds of excuses, but the fact of the matter is we're not signing up for easy when we are pledging ourselves to serve the Lord. And it's why it seems over and over and over again that the most difficult step to take in following Christ is the first step of discipleship, which is denial of self. We can't get to carrying our cross for Christ because we can't get through the pleasing self matter.
Well, see, and we're going to get to that next week, but well, maybe if we can get that far into chapter 10. But that's one of the things he says. He said, I didn't come to send, he said, I didn't come to bring peace. I come to send a sword. And then he talks about how he's going to divide families.
Ooh.
I mean, we're talking about hardcore stuff here. Well, I thought Jesus come to put families back together. No, actually it says he come to divide families.
Tell me if he's preparing them for easy when he tells them, when you go out, you're going to have to be as cunning as a snake, but as mild as a dove.
Right.
What is that saying?
And then he says you're going to be sheep among wolves, which that's what I'm preaching on this week. You know, and then he says you got to love me more than you love your family.
And we haven't got to the fact that there's some wolves that look like sheep out there.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's another for another day.
You know, and here's the thing. I guess the question is this. Would it be better for my son to impact somebody for Christ versus winning a state championship and having a ring and a medal? Which one would be the best? Now, it'd be great if he done both. Okay.
Sure.
But which one would be better? And here's the truth. Which one is he going to be able to take with him?
Exactly.
In eternity.
Exactly.
You're
Exactly.
not going to take the championship. You're not going to take the ring. You're not going to take the trophy. You're not going to take the accomplishment. You're not going to take the achievement. You're only going to be able to take the person you impacted with you. And so I think that's what we have to start living for, eternity. We have to start living with heaven in view. Again, I'm not here saying my kids are in sports. This one will be done this year, then I have one more to go. But I would rather, and I hope that I'm teaching my kids, yes, while you're there, if you're going to play the sport, you give it your all, 100%.
Sure.
But that's not where you get your identity. Your identity is you're a disciple of Christ who plays basketball. You're a disciple who plays football. You're a disciple who plays soccer. You're a disciple who plays tennis. So your identity is not wrapped up. And here's the thing, if you really are following Christ, you want to give your best because you're going to play in a way that honors him. That's the. But here's the thing, and so what parents do is say, well, you know, if I can get my kid in this, and they'll be the next Tim Tebow. So we'll wait until he gets there, and then we'll have that platform like Tim Tebow does, and then he'll be able to impact people. But the problem is, if you go back and study Tim Tebow's story, his family and his late father was a missionary who had their kid involved in missions way long before he was involved in sports.
Hey, the Tim Tebow story, it is centered on Christ, and Christ chose to put Tim in a platform area that he knew he'd be faithful to.
But see, but
He
we've got it
has.
backwards. We think that, okay, we'll skip church and we'll do all this stuff, pay all this money, go to all these trainings, and then once they get that platform, then they're going to be a spokesman for Christ. They won't because they don't know Christ.
Then we'll develop them into the Christian that God desires them to be. And in fact, what's probably going to happen is the world is going to have gotten a hold of them to a point where it's going to be a tough task to play out. Listen, I'm with you. If you notice, if we could rewind the tape and go back about 2 minutes, when Justin mentioned Tim Tebow's name, we had a pause there for about a second or two, Because the fact of the matter is, so many people look at examples of others that they want to emulate. Some people vicariously look at successful athletes, and they would like to see their kids live their life out through something they see as what's going to be nothing more than a dream. Parents, if we could just pause for just a moment. Having attended a number of activities over the years, sporting events like that, please think in the moment as to how so many seem to behave at sporting events. The pressure that you're putting on your kids from the stands sometimes is totally unnecessary. What they're doing out there is something we hope they're involved in because they truly love and enjoy it. Let them go along for the ride with the joy of competition, because this is something that the Lord can certainly use to prepare them for what lay ahead. Listen, we've said this, and let's just go ahead and drive this stake in the ground, and we can move on to some other things. Life is not about sports. It's not. It can't be. But there's a lot of life lessons that can be learned within competition.
Well,
And
Paul wrote a lot of his illustrations
metaphorically through athletics. Yes.
because the Greek games were so popular in that day, which was athletics. So we're not bashing. I love athletics. It's kind of my hobby. It's what I do. I don't really do much else but church and sports. But I've also seen how that, we cop out and we say we don't have time. And what if we turn the passion we have for the things we love for the things that are most important and who we love, which should be Christ, and what he has a passion. Think about what we could do in the world if we had the passion to work in the harvest and on mission as we have the passion to make sure our kids are being the athletes or the students that we want them to be. Not saying that it's wrong. I'm saying that we can't have two loves.
No. Listen, we're trying to distinguish here in the moment the difference between passion and obsession. Yep. Those are two totally different things. And what we hope as the local body of Christ is to try to encourage and equip younger people that as you step out of high school, and if you're going to be going off to college away from home, if that's going to be your first experience out from under the roof of your home for the first time like that, have we as parents and have we as the church coming alongside our parents done what we can to pack those bags for those kids emotionally and spiritually to prepare them to step out into the world like that? And I think
because they're gonna go out as sheep among wolves.
Oh my goodness! And listen, that is so that is so on point. It really is. And
Once you get out of the bubble, it's definitely.
And are they going to be prepared? How are they going to defend their faith? Are they going to be able to? Do they know what they believe? Well, how do they not know what they believe? Because actually, discipleship starts in the home, and the church comes alongside. It's not just the church's job to do the discipling of our kids. Like my kids, Brooklyn, Bryson, and Braden, the person that should be discipling them, number one, first and foremost, is me and Michelle.
That's our first mission.
And then the church that we have them in, which is Gateway, should come alongside through kids ministry, student ministry, young adult ministry, being there to surround and help. But we are discipling. And I'll go ahead and say this, and you probably know this, for the parents out there. You think raising your teenager is hard. You think raising your toddler is hard. Wait till they get in them adult years.
Okay.
It's going to be, you think
I've got a 34-year-old son and one who'll be 37 in September. And here's the truth. You never, ever stop being mom and dad to them.
Right.
And, walking with them through life, through moves and location, vocation, and all of those things that go along with it, I tell you, it is...
I think it's more difficult.
It can be. It can certainly be in the world in which we're living more complex. It certainly can.
Because you kind of got to let them be an adult, but you want to be there too,
right? As
the parent to protect them, but then you're trying to, let them do their own thing because they're kind of out on their own, and so it is difficult. But my thing is if we're teaching them the right way. The stats are not great about how many when they graduate high school and never darken door of a church again.
See, I was getting ready to go there, but to keep going.
No, you
'cause
go
that's
ahead.
good. No, because that's the truth. Listen, we say these things oftentimes when we're watching a replay of something. We'll say, listen, now the film doesn't lie. You know, regardless of what you think you're doing out on the field, let's watch the replay. Here's what you're doing, okay? And statistics can be very reliable. Let's say that. But what they're telling us that is happening with young people just a short time after they leave home, and these are kids that grew up in what we would consider to be church homes, that grew up in the church, that grew up in Christian homes. The statistics about the numbers that are dropping not just out of church attendance, but Justin and Austin, they're abandoning the faith altogether like that.
And you got to pull people back in, you know, like I've been in many situations where I've been, you know, I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing, and then somebody of faith that's, you know, helping me and getting me back on the path to be part of that harvest and stuff. You know, sometimes it's gonna hurt, and when people tell you, but they're trying to do it for the right reason. And I guess an example of that in my Bible recap is I'm over, I believe, in Acts 17, where Paul's calling out Peter for eating with the Jews and not the Gentiles anymore, and just abandoning them. And so I just think about that, of Paul just say, hey, this is what we got to do. We got to get back on the mission field.
Right.
You know.
Hey, listen, again, going back to Haggai, this is twice in the first 8 or 9 verses of the first chapter yesterday, the word from the Lord through him to the leadership and to the people was, consider your ways. Consider your ways. Consider what's going on in your life right now. And as a matter of fact, God had already allowed a drought and a famine to occur. And Haggai is speaking the word of prophecy, and he's saying, you notice, you know, you're putting seed in the ground, but it's not growing. You're eating food, but it's not filling you. You're drinking, but it doesn't seem to be enough. You're always thirsty. You're putting on clothing, but it's still not keeping you warm. And he comes back and he says it again, consider your ways. And what he's basically saying is, would you look within yourself and then look around and consider, are things the way they are because of you? Because of you.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, the question that we might offer someone in the moment, if they seem to be struggling and they're frustrated, and let's just say that they're professing Christians, if things just don't appear to be going well, we might want to ask them with love, say, listen, how are things going for you? And how's it working out?
Mm-hmm.
And have you considered your ways? Now, that can sound critical and judgmental, and somebody might say, well, listen, I'm not going to say that to somebody. But listen, if the relationship is there, and if it's trustworthy, and if it's people that might be looking to you for, hey, I really feel like I'm in a rut here.
I mean, I think
Help
if you have
me.
that trust built up,
Absolutely.
you can be honest and, you know, have tough conversations with people that you care about, and you have to build that trust first. But, I mean, the truth is if you go out, and this is one thing I think, and we can, you know, wrap this thing up today, but I think this is the thing. A lot of times we want people to come and see. Come and see what's going on at church.
Yep.
Come and see the pastor. Come and see the kids ministry. Come and see the student ministry. Come and see what God is doing. And that is great, and we ought to be doing things for people to want to come and see. But Jesus went and saw.
Yes, he did.
As he went, he saw people. And I think we've got to get out of our, and I know most of us, like myself, I mean, we have a little bit more flexibility to be out and about, but people that work jobs and stuff. But I think as we go to work, as we go to the gym, as we go to the ball games, if we would just take, you know, kind of walk slow and take a gaze at people that we're walking by, whether we go to the hospital or we go to the grocery store, you know, wherever we're living, working, going to school, whatever it is, if we just slow down and look at people, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see people that the text tells us are distressed. You're going to see people that are dejected and discouraged. You're going to see people that are defenseless. They're being harassed by Satan and the evil that is out there and problems. And you're going to see people like sheep without a shepherd, have no direction whatsoever. You're going to see, and then as you're going out, you want to help. How do you help? Well, you do what Jesus did. What he did, he taught the truth. He shared the gospel. He ministered to people that were hurting. That's what we're to do.
Absolutely.
We don't have to figure out what to do. We just do what Jesus did.
Thank you. There you go.
What did Jesus do? He loved people. What did Jesus do? He talked to people. He told people the truth in a loving way, and he ministered to people. He met their needs. That's what we're called to do. And what happens is he tells us to pray about it, about going, and then he calls his disciples, the leaders, servant leaders. I love that term because that's what a leader is. He's a servant, like Jesus. So he moves from the disciples that were following. Then he says, hey, you 12, I want you to go. You be the example. And he sends them out. And what did he send them out to do? To do the same thing Jesus was doing.
To be Jesus.
That's what we're to be.
That's it.
We are to go out and be Jesus to people. And the truth is we go out, there's all kinds of people that need help. And that is what it's going to be. And when you're on mission with Jesus and you're doing what God has called you to do, and when you, like what God's called me to do, when I speak and preach and do what God's called me to do, and somebody says, man, I enjoyed that. That helped me. You know how much satisfaction that gives me?
Right.
To know I'm doing what I'm called to do. And doing it not because I'm great at it, not because it's just that you're on mission with Jesus.
Right. And
you're impacting people's lives. That is what is going to last. That's going to be better than any trophy that we won. And if you really think about, I've won trophies too when I play. My kids don't care about that. They don't want to see it. They don't want to see the write-ups in the paper. They don't care. And neither will their kids when they have kids.
Very true.
It's going to be about what truly lasts, and it's about living with heaven in view is what I really think it is, what it comes down to. And it's a mindset we've got to shift if we're going to really be the workers in the field that God desires us to be and to be on mission for him. So, hey, thank you for listening to this episode of the Rise and Shine podcast. We hope you have a great week. Hope you'll enjoy it. Celebrate Memorial Day. Take some time to thank the Lord for the freedoms that we have and thank somebody that paid for those freedoms this week. God bless you. Have a good rest of your week. Stay on mission with Jesus. God bless you.